Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when we stand at the crossroads of expectations and authenticity. Moments when the world asks us to fit into boxes that never were made for us. But what happens when you start negotiating who you are? When you let others define your worth, your value, your potential, you lose the essence of who you were born to be. You shrink, you dim your light, and you allow the noise to drown out your voice. Today, I want to remind you of one truth. You are not a product of what others say you should be. You are a masterpiece in progress, shaped by your own dreams, your own struggles, and your own courage. We live in a world that constantly tries to mold us. People will tell you who to love, how to speak, what to wear, where to go, and who to become. They will measure your success by the standards they set for themselves without ever knowing the depth of your heart or the fire inside you. But I say to you today, do not negotiate who you are. Do not shrink yourself to fit someone else's idea of what is acceptable or normal. Do not let the voices around you drown out the strength that resides within you. Each of us is a force of nature. We are born with dreams bigger than the limits the world tries to impose on us. We are born with a resilience that can break barriers and a courage that can light up the darkest corners of the earth. But none of that matters if you give away your power, if you start trading pieces of your soul for validation. Remember, you are enough, just as you are. You do not need to negotiate your worth for approval. Your story, your identity, your uniqueness is what makes you irreplaceable. The world may try to push you into corners, but always remember that corners are not where you belong. You belong in the vastness of your own dreams, in the freedom of your own truth. And yes, it's not always easy. Sometimes standing in your truth feels like you're standing alone. But know this, you are never alone. The universe will always find a way to align with those who are unapologetically themselves. When you own who you are, the world has no choice but to see you for the strength you possess. Today, I ask you to promise yourself this. You will no longer negotiate who you are. You will stand tall in your own skin, in your own dreams, in your own worth. You will remind yourself daily that you are worthy of everything you desire, just as you are. You are enough. You are powerful. You are deserving of love, success, and happiness, exactly as you are. Let no one, not even yourself, ever convince you to settle for less than the full brilliance of who you are. You are not meant to be small. You are meant to shine, to rise, to take up space in this world. Own it. Embracing your authenticity is one of the most revolutionary things you can do in a world that constantly pushes you toward conformity. Authenticity is not just about being yourself in the easy moments when everything is going according to plan, but about standing tall even in the face of adversity. It's about finding the courage to remain true to who you are, regardless of external pressures, expectations, or the fear of judgment. This journey is not always linear, and it is not always easy, but it is essential. When you embrace who you truly are, not only do you experience a sense of freedom, but you also begin to attract the opportunities and people that align with your genuine self. From the moment we are born, we are bombarded with messages about how we should behave, how we should look, and even how we should think. Society creates molds, shapes we are supposed to fit into in order to be accepted or loved. These molds are often passed down from previous generations, reinforced by the media and bolstered by societal norms. But the thing is, these molds were never designed for you specifically. They were not created for your unique talents, your personality, your dreams, or your struggles. They were not created for the story that you carry with you, the pain you've experienced, or the lessons you've learned. Yet from an early age, we begin to internalize the belief that we must fit into these molds in order to find happiness, success, or acceptance. We often believe that in order to be worthy, we must be like everyone else. But when we try to fit ourselves into a mold that was never meant for us, we begin to lose ourselves. We start to forget what truly lights us up and we value. We silence parts of our identity, parts of our spirit, in order to fit into a version of life that is not authentic to who we are. It's like trying to wear someone else's clothes. No matter how hard you try, you'll never feel comfortable or at home in them. Eventually, you begin to feel like a stranger in your own life, wondering why nothing feels quite right. The truth is, you were never meant to conform to these outside expectations. You were born to be exactly who you are, complex, vibrant, and unique. And yes, I know it sounds easier said than done. The pressure to conform is real. We live in a world that prizes similarity over individuality. Social media, for example, shows us a filtered version of life. A version that tells us that success looks one way, happiness looks one way, and beauty looks one way. It becomes easy to start questioning our own path, our own worth, because we begin to compare ourselves to a version of reality that is far from complete or true. This comparison traps us into believing that we must become someone else in order to be accepted. We look at others and see their accomplishments, their relationships, their lifestyles, and we wonder why we aren't living up to the same standards. But what we forget in those moments is that we are not meant to live anyone else's life but our own. Every person's journey is different. Every individual is at a different point on their path, with their own set of challenges, dreams, and lessons to learn. The key to a fulfilling life is not in trying to mimic someone else's story, but in embracing your own and walking that path with confidence. Authenticity means showing up as your true self without fear or shame in every area of your life. It means rejecting the pressure to be someone you're not, even when that pressure feels overwhelming. It requires self-awareness, the willingness to look within and understand who you really are, without the external noise clouding your vision. Authenticity requires courage because it means embracing all parts of yourself, the strengths and the weaknesses, the successes and the failures, the moments of joy and the times of pain. It means understanding that your value does not depend on how well you perform in the eyes of others, but on your ability to be true to your inner essence. When you embrace authenticity, you also begin to experience a sense of inner peace. Instead of constantly striving to meet expectations that were never yours to begin with, you find freedom in being exactly who you are. You stop wearing a mask that was designed by someone else's standards and start wearing the skin you were born in. This sense of freedom allows you to fully experience your life without the constant pressure to conform to an image that isn't yours. But this freedom doesn't come without challenges. There are moments when being authentic means standing against the current, and that can feel isolating. When you refuse to negotiate who you are, you might lose people along the way. There may be people in your life who cannot accept you for who you truly are, and that can be painful. However, what you'll find is that those who leave were never meant to stay. They were not aligned with the version of you that you are becoming. True connections, true relationships are built on mutual authenticity and understanding. When you begin to embrace who you are without compromise, you begin to attract the people who will support you and lift you up. The fear of rejection, judgment, and loneliness can make embracing authenticity feel daunting. There are times when you may worry that if you show the world your true self, you will be met with criticism or even ridicule. These fears are valid, but they are not reasons to hide who you are. The truth is, the people who judge you for being authentic are often doing so because they are afraid to be authentic themselves. Their judgment is a reflection of their own insecurities, not yours. You cannot let the fear of how others perceive you dictate how you live your life. You must remind yourself that their opinions do not define your worth. Their judgments are only their projections of the world, not reflections of who you truly are. Furthermore, embracing authenticity is not about being perfect or having it all together. Being authentic means accepting yourself as you are, flaws and all. It means showing up even when you don't have all the answers, when you don't have it figured out. It means acknowledging that you are a work in progress, and that's okay. Life is messy, complicated, and unpredictable. The beauty lies in how we navigate these challenges with integrity and authenticity. Perfection is not the goal. Being true to yourself is. The journey of embracing authenticity is not one that happens overnight. It is a lifelong process, a constant evolution. There will be times when you stray from your true self, when you succumb to pressure or fear, but the important thing is to always come back to your truth. Each time you do, you grow stronger. You develop more trust in yourself, more confidence in your ability to stand in your own power. And each time you embrace authenticity, you create a ripple effect in the world around you. Your courage to be yourself inspires others to do the same. In this way, embracing your authenticity becomes an act of not only self-liberation, but collective liberation. We must remember that there is no one else in the world exactly like you. There are no others who carry your experiences, your story, your dreams. You are a singular, irreplaceable being. And the more you embrace your authentic self, the more you contribute to the richness of the world around you. Your voice, your energy, your perspective is needed in this world, not watered down or distorted to fit someone else's version of you. It's time to stop negotiating who you are. It's time to stand tall in your truth, unapologetically and fearlessly. The world needs your unique light, and when you embrace that light, you will find that doors open, opportunities arise, and your life begins to unfold in the most extraordinary ways. Remember, being authentic is not a choice between fitting in or standing out. It's about recognizing that you were never meant to fit in at all. You were born to stand out. And the moment you realize that, you will experience the most profound freedom of all, the freedom of being fully, completely, and unapologetically yourself. Never shrink for others. This is one of the most vital principles for living an authentic life. We often find ourselves shrinking, hiding, or minimizing who we are to make others more comfortable. Whether it's in relationships, in our careers, or within our communities, there's this pervasive belief that to be accepted, we must shrink ourselves into something smaller, less noticeable, or less bold. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that to avoid conflict or discomfort, we need to suppress our voice, downplay our ambitions, or ignore the parts of ourselves that may seem too loud, too big, or too different for the people around us. But when we do this, we begin to erase our essence. We lose the parts of ourselves that make us unique, and we start to live for others rather than for ourselves. This fear of taking up space comes from a place of insecurity and conditioning. From a young age, many of us are taught to be good by being quiet, humble, and obedient. We're taught that being too much, too vocal, too passionate, too confident is something to be ashamed of. The world tells us that it's better to blend in, to be less, to be more palatable, more appropriate in the eyes of others. We hear messages that say, don't stand out, don't be too loud, don't get too big for your britches. These messages are reinforced in subtle and overt ways throughout our lives, and over time, they create a narrative that we must shrink ourselves to fit into the world around us. But the truth is, shrinking for others only leads to emptiness. When we shrink, we give up our power. We hold ourselves back from fully stepping into who we are meant to be. We stifle our dreams, our desires, and our potential in the name of pleasing others or avoiding discomfort. This can lead to resentment, frustration, and a sense of deep disconnection from our true selves. The energy that could be spent creating, growing, and living our best lives gets drained by the constant effort of contorting ourselves into something we were never meant to be. It's not uncommon to shrink in the presence of those who criticize, judge, or belittle us. The need to fit in or gain approval from others can be overwhelming, and we may feel that the best way to avoid conflict or rejection is to make ourselves smaller, quieter, or less visible. But by doing this, we deny our own truth. We deny our brilliance, our gifts, and our light. The world needs your voice, your energy, your unique perspective. Every person is a conduit for something special. But when you shrink, you hide that specialness, and the world loses out on what you have to offer. The truth is, when you shrink, you are robbing the world of your brilliance. No one else has the exact combination of experiences, skills, and perspective that you do. When you shrink, you withhold the very things that make you uniquely equipped to impact the world around you. It may seem easier or safer to remain small, but the cost of doing so is high. The cost is your fulfillment, your peace, and your sense of purpose. The cost is your own happiness. You were not born to be small, to be quiet, or to stay in the shadows. You were born to shine. Choosing not to shrink does not mean you have to be arrogant or demanding, nor does it mean you have to disregard the feelings or perspectives of others. It simply means refusing to play small, refusing to hide who you are to accommodate the expectations or comfort levels of those around you. It means choosing to take up space, to own your voice, and to live out your dreams unapologetically. It means being brave enough to be seen and heard in all of your authenticity, without fear of judgment or rejection. When you stop shrinking for others, you begin to attract the right people into your life. Those who will appreciate you for who you truly are, not for who you pretend to be. Shrinking often leads to relationships where you are not truly seen, where you feel invisible or unheard. But when you step into your full self, you naturally attract those who can match your energy, your authenticity, and your truth. The right people will love you for your uniqueness, not despite it. They will encourage you to grow, not hold you back. It's important to remember that you are worthy of taking up space. Your ideas, your voice, your presence are all valuable, and you have a right to express them. No one's comfort, no matter how well-intentioned, should come at the expense of your truth. You deserve to be seen and to have your needs and desires acknowledged just as much as anyone else. The world can feel overwhelming at times, and it can be easy to fall into the trap of trying to fit in. But your greatness can only unfold when you allow yourself to fully show up as you are in all your glory. You are allowed to stand tall. You are allowed to take up space. Sometimes shrinking comes from fear, the fear of rejection, the fear of being misunderstood, or the fear of standing out too much. But this fear is often rooted in the need for external validation. It's the fear of not being accepted or loved if we show up as our true selves. The reality is that when we shrink for others, we often attract the wrong people. People who may only value us for what we're willing to suppress, rather than for who we really are. The more we shrink, the less likely we are to find the people who will love us unconditionally, for our truest selves. When you stop shrinking, you open up space for growth, joy, and deep connection. You stop apologizing for your existence, your dreams, or your desires. You step into your own power and begin to create a life that reflects your true worth. You allow yourself to take risks, to chase your dreams, and to live a life that is uniquely yours without worrying about whether it fits into someone else's idea of how life should be lived. Your life becomes your own, and the only validation you seek is from within. The journey to authenticity often requires you to leave behind old patterns of thinking and behavior. These patterns are deeply ingrained in us, often built from years of conditioning, societal expectations, and the need to fit in. They are the scripts we follow, the automatic responses we give, and the ways we move through the world without questioning if they align with our true selves. These patterns are not necessarily a reflection of who we are at our core. Rather, they are the results of external influences that we have absorbed over time. The beliefs we hold about ourselves, our capabilities, and our worth are shaped by these patterns, often in ways that limit us or hold us back from living fully and authentically. We often internalize the idea that certain behaviors or mindsets are necessary for acceptance or success. For example, we might believe that we need to always please others to gain love or approval, or that we must hide our true emotions to avoid conflict. These beliefs can become so ingrained that they feel like second nature, guiding us through decisions and interactions without us even realizing it. However, when we look closely, we often find that these patterns do not serve us. They hold us back from expressing who we truly are, from taking risks, from showing up in the world with our full selves. In order to truly live authentically, we must be willing to break free from these patterns and challenge the beliefs that keep us small. The process of breaking free from these old patterns is not easy. It requires self-awareness and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves. It means questioning the beliefs and habits we have carried with us for years, some of which may have been passed down from our families or communities. We must begin by recognizing that just because we've always thought or acted in a certain way, doesn't mean it is the only way. Our patterns are not our identity. They are learned behaviors that we can unlearn, reframe, and transform. It is within our power to rewrite the script that has been handed to us and create a new narrative based on our authentic truth. One of the most common patterns that many of us hold is the need for external validation. We grow up learning that our worth is determined by how others perceive us, by the approval or disapproval of those around us, whether it's parents, teachers, friends, or society at large. We often find ourselves seeking validation through accomplishments, appearances, or the approval of others. This need for validation can become a cycle where we constantly strive to meet the expectations of others, only to find that it is never enough. We feel hollow, as though we are always chasing something just out of reach, and in the process, we lose touch with who we truly are. To break free from this pattern, we must learn to validate ourselves. This doesn't mean becoming self-centered or disregarding the feelings of others. Rather, it means understanding that our worth is not dependent on the opinions of those around us. It means looking within and acknowledging our own value, regardless of external circumstances. This shift is liberating because it allows us to stop seeking approval from others in order to feel whole. We begin to trust our own judgment, our own instincts, and our own desires. We start to make decisions based on what feels right for us rather than based on what we think others will approve of. Another common pattern is the tendency to hide our true emotions or to suppress parts of ourselves in order to avoid conflict. Many of us are taught that it is better to keep our feelings hidden or to avoid expressing our true thoughts in order to keep the peace or maintain harmony in relationships. However, this kind of suppression only leads to resentment, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. When we suppress our feelings, we deny ourselves the opportunity to experience life fully. We also prevent others from truly knowing us, which keeps our relationships surface level and inauthentic. To break free from this pattern, we must allow ourselves to feel and express our emotions freely. We must understand that our emotions are valid and deserve to be acknowledged. This doesn't mean that we should act impulsively or lash out at others, but it does mean that we should no longer hide who we are or suppress how we feel in order to keep others comfortable. We should adopt our emotions so they can flow freely inside of us. They can act from their truth. Breaking free from these old patterns also requires us to embrace vulnerability. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, but in reality, it is a source of strength. It is the ability to show up authentically without fear of judgment and to share our true selves with others. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we invite connection, intimacy, and understanding into our lives. We create space for others to do the same. Vulnerability also allows us to be more compassionate with ourselves. When we stop hiding behind the walls of perfection or facade, we give ourselves permission to be human. We embrace our flaws, our mistakes, and our imperfections as part of our beautiful, unique journey. The process of breaking free from these old patterns also requires us to be patient and gentle with ourselves. Change is not instantaneous, and there will be moments when we slip back into old ways of thinking or acting. The key is to recognize when this happens and to course correct with compassion rather than self-criticism. It is essential to remember that breaking free from old patterns is not about achieving perfection, but about making progress and embracing growth. Each small step we take toward authenticity is a victory. And each time we choose to act in alignment with our true selves, we reinforce the new patterns that will eventually become our default way of being. As we begin to break free from these patterns, we begin to notice how much more aligned we feel with who we truly are. We no longer feel the need to pretend or to wear masks to fit in. We no longer feel the weight of trying to meet others' expectations. Instead, we feel liberated. We feel free to pursue our passions, to express our emotions, and to step into the fullness of who we are without fear or hesitation. We begin to attract people into our lives who appreciate us for our authenticity, and we develop a deeper sense of connection with the world around us. By shedding old patterns and beliefs that no longer serve us, we unlock the potential to live a life that is truly our own. Resisting societal pressure is one of the hardest challenges we face in our journey to remain authentic. From the moment we are born, we are constantly influenced by outside forces that attempt to shape who we should be, how we should act, and what we should desire. Society, media, cultural expectations, and even our loved ones often create standards that they believe we must meet in order to be accepted, valued, or seen as successful. These pressures are relentless, and over time they can make us question our own identity as well as our worth. We are taught that there are certain ways of thinking, acting, and living that are acceptable, and anything outside of these norms is considered strange, wrong, or even undesirable. The truth, however, is that these pressures are based on someone else's vision of what life should look like, not yours. The more you try to conform to these expectations, the further you stray from the person you were meant to be. You begin to lose sight of your own voice, your own dreams, and your own truth. Society doesn't have the right to define who you are or what you should aspire to. It is only through resisting these pressures and reclaiming your individuality that you can step into the fullness of your own potential. We see this pressure in many areas of life, in career choices, body image, relationships, and even our beliefs. For example, when it comes to career, society has certain ideas about success, what jobs are prestigious, what salaries are ideal, and what paths are considered safe or smart. The pressure to follow these traditional routes can feel suffocating, especially if your aspirations don't align with these societal markers of success. Perhaps you have a passion for something unconventional, or maybe you don't follow the typical trajectory others expect of you. It can be incredibly difficult to pursue what truly resonates with you when the world around you is pushing you towards something different. Similarly, the societal standards of beauty and body image are another source of constant pressure. Media and popular culture perpetuate specific ideals of how people should look, often equating beauty with thinness, youth, or a particular type of physical appearance. These ideals are deeply ingrained, and they leave many people, especially women, feeling as though they are not good enough if they don't meet these standards. The pressure to conform to these beauty standards is everywhere. From magazines to advertisements to social media, it can be exhausting and disheartening, especially when we are led to believe that our worth is based on our external appearance. Yet, the most liberating thing you can do is resist these pressures. The world may constantly tell you that you are not enough unless you fit a certain mold, but you are more than enough exactly as you are. Your value is not determined by your career, your appearance, or anyone else's opinion of you. Your worth is inherent, and it comes from embracing your individuality rather than conforming to a standard set by others. Resisting societal pressure doesn't mean you need to reject everything the world offers. It means having the strength to make choices based on what feels right for you, not what feels right for everyone else. It means learning to trust your own instincts, desires, and values, and not letting the expectations of others drown them out. This may mean going against the grain, but that's where true freedom lies. The world often tells us that the path to happiness is found in fitting in following the crowd, in doing what everyone else is doing. But that is a lie. The path to happiness, fulfillment, and success is found in being true to yourself, regardless of what anyone else may say. This resistance is not easy. It takes strength, self-awareness, and the courage to stand alone when necessary. There will be times when you are met with criticism, judgment, or even rejection from others when you resist the pressures of society. You might feel isolated, as though you are swimming upstream in a river full of people going the other way. But remember that this discomfort is temporary, and the reward is immense. When you refuse to let society dictate who you should be, you reclaim your power. You begin to trust yourself more deeply, and you find the courage to live your life on your own terms. The people who are critical of your choices or who expect you to conform to certain standards are often doing so because they are afraid to do the same. Their judgments are projections of their own insecurities. They may not understand why you choose a different path, but that's not your responsibility. Your life is yours to live, and you don't owe anyone an explanation for living it authentically. Resisting societal pressure doesn't mean rejecting others or refusing to fit into society altogether. It means choosing to be the truest version of yourself, even when it feels difficult. It's about not letting the fear of judgment or the desire for approval dictate your decisions. It's about finding the courage to be different, to be bold, and to pursue your own dreams, no matter how unconventional they may seem. The more you resist societal pressure and embrace your own path, the more you will attract the right people into your life, those who accept and love you for exactly who you are. It's only by staying true to yourself that you can build relationships, friendships, and careers that are grounded in authenticity rather than fear or pretense. When you are brave enough to stand against the current, you find that you're never truly alone. You will meet others who are also on their own journeys of self-discovery and who, like you, are rejecting the pressures of society to live their lives authentically. Resisting societal pressure also brings with it a sense of empowerment. You begin to feel a deep sense of ownership over your own life. You stop living according to the expectations of others, and instead you create a life that reflects your true values, passions, and desires. This empowerment is not just personal. It has the potential to inspire others as well. By resisting the pressures of society and embracing who you are, you become a beacon of light for others to do the same. Your courage becomes contagious, and it encourages others to live their lives authentically as well. Resisting societal pressure is not an act of rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It is an act of self-love, self-respect, and self-trust. It's a declaration that you are enough just as you are, and that you will no longer allow external forces to dictate your worth or your path. The more you embrace this mindset, the more you will see the true power of living authentically. Your worth is inherent. It doesn't come from what you do, what you achieve, or how others perceive you. It's not measured by your accomplishments or your failures, by the way you look, or by the status you hold in society. Your worth is built into your being, just as it is. The world has a way of convincing us that we need to do something in order to prove our value, but that's a dangerous belief. It makes us feel that we are only worthy when we meet external standards, when we fit into the narrow boxes that society sets for us, when we accomplish certain milestones that others deem important. But the truth is, no one needs to prove their worth. You don't need to earn the right to exist, to take up space, or to pursue your dreams. The very fact that you are alive makes you worthy. You are deserving of love, success, happiness, and peace just by being yourself. Your inherent worth cannot be taken away by external circumstances, by other people's judgments, or by your own doubts. It is something that resides deep within you, always, even when you may feel like you've lost sight of it. This is one of the most empowering truths you can embrace. The world may tell you otherwise. Society is full of messages that tell us our worth is tied to how much we produce, how much we earn, or how much we conform. We are conditioned to believe that our value is conditional, that we have to earn love, approval, or success. The reality, though, is that we are worthy regardless of what we do or don't do. We are worthy because we exist. It is this fundamental truth that gives us the strength to stand tall in the face of adversity, to keep moving forward when the world tries to make us feel small or insignificant. The idea that we must prove our worth is what leads to constant self-doubt and fear. We spend so much of our energy trying to be something we're not, trying to measure up to others' expectations, or chasing after things that we think will make us worthy. In doing so, we disconnect from our authentic selves and forget that we already have everything we need within us. We may find ourselves caught in a cycle of comparison, constantly looking at others and wondering why we aren't as successful, as happy, or as accomplished as they are. But comparison is a thief. It steals our peace, our joy, and our sense of self. When we compare ourselves to others, we are measuring our worth against someone else's journey, someone else's timeline, someone else's version of success. What we often forget is that everyone's journey is unique. We all come from different places with different challenges, different strengths, and different stories. There is no one-size-fits-all formula for worth, no standard that can apply universally to all people. Our paths are not meant to look the same, and neither are accomplishments. What we achieve, the impact we have on others, the way we choose to live, none of this determines our worth. These are simply expressions of who we are, and they don't take away or add anything to the intrinsic value we hold. You cannot measure worth with external standards. Your worth is not determined by what the world says it should be. It is inherent in you, just as you are. This understanding can free us from the chains of perfectionism, which is another way society tries to make us believe we aren't enough unless we meet a certain standard. Perfectionism teaches us that if we don't do something perfectly, we are failures, and that anything less than perfection is unacceptable. But perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist. There is no perfect way to be, to love, to live. Imperfection is what makes us human. It's what makes us relatable, compassionate, and real. Embracing our imperfections and flaws is an essential part of embracing our worth. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy. You don't need to have everything together. Your worth is not contingent on how well you perform or how others view you. We also need to realize that our worth isn't validated by others. It's easy to fall into the trap of seeking external validation from those around us, whether it's from our family, friends, colleagues, or social media followers. We look for signs of approval, and when we don't receive them, we question ourselves. But when we rely on others to validate our worth, we give up our power. External validation is fleeting. People's opinions are often shaped by their own biases, insecurities, and experiences, and they are not a true reflection of your value. Your worth comes from within, not from someone else's approval. When you begin to recognize your own worth independent of others, you empower yourself to live life on your own terms. This realization is incredibly freeing. When you embrace the fact that your worth is inherent, you stop waiting for permission to pursue your dreams. You stop letting the opinions of others hold you back from being who you are. You stop waiting for validation to feel good enough. Instead, you begin to act from a place of self-trust, confidence, and authenticity. You begin to pursue your goals and aspirations because you know that you are deserving of them. You know that you are worthy of success, of of love, of happiness, and of all the good things that life has to offer, not because you've earned them by meeting some external criteria, but because you are simply worthy by being yourself. It's also important to understand that your worth is not diminished by mistakes or failures. In fact, mistakes are often the most valuable learning experiences we have. Failure does not make you less worthy. It makes you stronger, more resilient, and more capable of growing